On the evening of March 31st, 1922, on Hinterkaifeck Farm in Bavaria, Germany, 6 residents were murdered with a pickaxe. The victims included husband and wife, Andreas and Cäzilia Gruber, their widowed daughter, Viktoria, Viktoria's 2 children, Cäzilia and Josef, and the family's maid, Maria. 2-year-old Joseph was killed in his crib, and Maria was killed in her bed, while the rest of the family was then murdered in the barn and stacked up on top of each other. Strange events occurred in and around Hinterkaifeck before the attack. The family maid had quit 6 months earlier, reportedly due to hearing strange sounds in the attic and believing the house to be haunted. Andreas found an unfamiliar newspaper on the property in March 1922, leading him to suspect that it was lost by the postman. However, nobody nearby subscribed to that newspaper. Days before the murders, Gruber informed neighbors about tracks in the snow leading from the forest to a broken door lock in the farm's machine room. Later, during the night, footsteps were heard in the attic, but no one was found when Gruber searched the building. According to a school friend of Cäzilia, the 7-year-old girl claimed that her mother Viktoria had fled the farm after a violent quarrel and was later found in the forest. Initial investigations were hindered by numerous individuals who had interacted with the crime scene, moved bodies and items, and even cooked and eaten in the kitchen. The day after the bodies were found, court physician performed autopsies in the barn. It was determined that a mattock was likely the murder weapon, although it was not found at the scene. Evidence revealed that the younger Cäzilia had been alive for several hours after the assault. She had torn out tufts of her hair while lying in the straw. Initially suspecting robbery as the motive, the police interrogated traveling craftsmen, vagrants, and inhabitants from nearby villages. This theory was abandoned when a large sum of money was discovered in the house. It was clear that the perpetrators had remained at the farm for several days, feeding the cattle, consuming all the bread, and recently cutting meat from the pantry. In the inspection record of the court commission, it was noted that the victims were likely drawn to the barn due to restlessness in the stable, resulting in noises from the animals. A later attempt showed that human screams from the barn could not be heard in the living area. On the night following the crime, 3 days before the bodies were discovered, artisan Michael Palkel happened to pass by the farm. He noticed that the oven had been heated by someone. The person approached him with a lantern, blinding him momentarily, and Palkel quickly continued on his way. He also detected a revolting smell from the fireplace smoke. This incident was not investigated further to determine what had been burned in the oven that night. On April 1st at 3 a.m., farmer and butcher Simon Rylander, on his way home near Brunnen, saw 2 mysterious figures at the edge of the forest. When the strangers noticed him, they turned around to conceal their faces. Later, upon hearing about the murders, Rylander considered the possibility that the strangers might be involved. In the middle of May 1927, a stranger allegedly stopped a resident at Wadofen at midnight, asking him questions about the murder before suddenly proclaiming that he was the murderer and fleeing into the woods. This stranger was never identified. Despite repeated arrests, no murderer was ever found. The case files were closed in 1955.